What if the truth you buried came back wearing your name? James O'Courier was a powerful man, untouchable. Anna was just a quiet woman until two young men walked into his office looking for work. Anna recognized their names before she recognized their faces. The names she had given her twins, the children she never stopped watching from afar. James said it was impossible. He believed Anna had been untouched, a virgin. That was when she told him everything. A night he tried to forget. A pregnancy no one believed. A birth that changed lives in silence. And the sons who grew up, never knowing how deeply their lives were connected to his. Some secrets wait years before they return. James O'Courier had learned to take silence as consent. His world was built that way. People nodded, stepped aside, complied. Anna's quietness felt no different to him. She moved through the house like a shadow, eyes lowered, voice soft, never lingering where she wasn't summoned. That night, the house was too quiet. The rain pressed against the windows, Legos humming faintly beyond the walls. James had been drinking, not enough to be drunk, just enough to feel entitled to comfort. When he called Anna, she came, as she always did, standing stiffly at the doorway, hands folded, already afraid of what she didn't yet understand. What happened next was fast, confusing, and wrong. Anna resisted, not loudly, not dramatically, but in the way her body stiffened, in the way her breath fractured, in the way her eyes filled with terror instead of invitation. James mistook fear for hesitation, silence for uncertainty, until something stopped him. Not conscience, realization. There was no familiarity in her response, no learned rhythm, no expectation, only panic, only shock. James pulled back, suddenly aware of what didn't make sense. "You?" he began, then stopped. Anna was crying now, turning her face away, shame and fear colliding in her chest. She shook her head, unable to speak, clutching her clothes like armor. It hit him then, not as guilt, but as disbelief. She had never been with anyone. The knowledge unsettled him more than resistance ever could have. He stepped away, disturbed, confused, muttering an apology that carried no understanding. In his mind, the line he hadn't crossed became the story he chose to remember. Anna left the room shaking. She spent the night scrubbing her skin raw in the bathroom, praying, begging her body to forget. But bodies remember what minds try to erase. Weeks later, when the sickness started, when the missed days stacked into panic, when doctors asked questions she couldn't answer clearly, Anna realized the night had taken more from her than fear. James, meanwhile, buried it. In his version of events, nothing had truly happened. He told himself that whatever he hadn't finished couldn't matter. That harm only counted if it followed a certain shape. He never asked about Anna again. And Anna never told him what that night had cost her. But the truth didn't disappear. James never asked how Anna was doing. That was the truth that hurt the most. When the signs could no longer be ignored, when her body changed in ways even silence couldn't conceal, James reacted, not with concern but with efficiency. Schedules were adjusted, payments were rerouted, her name quietly disappeared from the household roster. It wasn't punishment, it was erasure. Anna was told she would be better taken care of elsewhere. No explanation, no goodbye, just an envelope, an address, and the unspoken message. Whatever happened must never be spoken of again. James believed distance would solve it, that forgetting was the same as forgiveness. Anna left the mansion before dawn. She carried more than a suitcase with her. She carried a truth no one wanted, growing heavier by the day. In a small clinic far from the city, doctors confirmed what fear had already told her. She was carrying twins, and her body would not survive childbirth without intervention. 6 months later, the surgery saved her life. 2 boys were born into a world already arranging their absence. Anna held them only briefly, long enough to name them, long enough to memorize their faces. long enough to understand that love, sometimes, demands unbearable sacrifice. Her family intervened swiftly. There were reputations to protect, traditions to preserve, questions that could not be answered without scandal. Anna was told the children would be safer raised elsewhere, under the care of trusted relatives, far from whispers and accusations. To keep the family intact, Anna had to let her sons go. She watched them leave with a calm that came from exhaustion, not peace. She told herself she would return for them one day, when the world was kinder, when truth wouldn't destroy everyone it touched. Years passed. Anna rebuilt her life quietly. She worked, she endured. She kept track of her sons from a distance, knowing their names, their guardian, their progress, never close enough to claim them, never far enough to forget. James, meanwhile, succeeded in what he wanted. The past stayed buried, until fate made a different decision. Years later, when Anna found herself working in James's office, not his home, but close enough to feel the old shadows, she thought the worst was behind her. Then a recruitment list crossed her desk. 2 familiar names, 1 familiar guardian, 1 unmistakable connection. Anna didn't need confirmation. Her heart already knew. The children she had surrendered to protect a family's honor had grown into men, and they had walked straight back into the life that once tried to erase them. And this time, the truth was no longer willing to leave quietly. Anna's hands hovered over the stack of job applications. She had seen hundreds in her life, names printed neatly in black ink, stories attached to each sheet. She did her work mechanically, eyes scanning, filtering, filing. Then she stopped. 2 names leapt from the page. She froze. Her breath caught. The first name was unmistakable. She had whispered it into a newborn's ear, clutched it in the palm of her hand when she held him for just minutes, praying the world wouldn't claim him first. The second name followed immediately, side by side, like they had been meant to remain together, even apart. Beneath their names, the line for their guardian confirmed it all, the same relative she had entrusted them to. The town she had left them in, far away from the city and the scandal she had been forced to avoid. Anna's vision blurred. She read the lines again, slower this time. She didn't need to finish reading. Her heart already knew. They were hers. When the 2 young men arrived at the office, the first glance was enough. Something in their posture, their movements, even the way they measured the space around them. They carried a quiet confidence she recognized instantly. Not their fault, not learned behavior, but something innate. Her chest tightened. Anna guided them to a side room under the pretense of filling out forms. She watched every twitch, every hesitation, every familiar gesture, and then she asked their names quietly, almost hoping she was mistaken. "Kunle?" she said, voice barely above a whisper. A pause, then a careful nod. "And Tunde?" Another nod. Anna closed her eyes briefly, letting the relief and heartbreak collide inside her. They were hers, her sons. After years of distance, loss, and secrecy, here they were. She looked at their faces, memorizing them. They were older, taller, stronger, but the curve of Kunle's jaw, the tilt of Tunde's eyes, it was all hers and yet all them. When she returned to her desk, the truth pressed heavily against her chest. She could not keep it to herself. She had to tell James. She walked into his office with the calmness she had trained herself to hold for years, though inside her heart pounded like a warning bell. "They're here," she said simply. "The boys." James looked up from his paperwork, frowning. "Who? What boys?" Anna let the silence stretch, long enough for him to feel it, for him to sense that this was not ordinary news. "My sons," she said. James laughed, sharp and disbelieving. "That's impossible," he said. "Anna, you were—" He faltered. "You were untouched." The words landed between them like a hammer. Anna didn't flinch. She had rehearsed this moment countless times in her head, but nothing could have prepared her for the raw disbelief in his eyes. "It doesn't matter what you think you did or didn't do," Anna said slowly, measured. "It happened. I had to give them to my relatives to protect the family, to preserve honor, to avoid scandal." James sat back, the weight of her words pressing down on him. Silence filled the room, thick and suffocating. He opened his mouth to speak, but found no words. Anna continued, calm now, her voice carrying the authority that came from years of surviving. They are alive. They are yours too, in ways you will have to reckon with. And now, they are here, in this office, waiting. And you will see them, not as abstract consequences, but as living proof that nothing can truly be erased. James's hands clenched. He had tried to bury, to forget, to erase. But the truth had a stubborn way of coming back. And now it was standing before him, calm, measured, undeniable. Anna turned back to the door. The boys waited quietly, unaware that their mother had recognized them, unaware that the man behind the desk was about to learn the truth about the life he had thought he controlled. And in that moment, James understood that power could not erase what had already happened. The office was unusually quiet that morning. The hum of printers and distant traffic faded against the tension thickening the air. Anna stood by the doorway, watching as James rose from behind his desk. His face was pale, rigid, eyes sharp with disbelief and fear. He had avoided this moment for years, and now it had arrived uninvited. The twins, Kunle and Tunde, had no idea who this man really was. They were professional, polite, unaware that the woman guiding them was their mother, and the man in the room had been tied to the earliest, most painful chapter of their lives. James swallowed hard. His voice came out in a low, uncertain tone. "Sit, please," he said, gesturing to the chairs in front of him. Anna took a step back. She had done her job. She had set the stage. Now it was time for truth to unfold. James studied the boys closely. The resemblance was uncanny, not just in physical features, the tilt of their heads, the curve of their smiles, but in presence, in confidence, in the way they carried themselves. Something familiar tugged at his memory, something he had never allowed himself to name. "Your names," James began, his voice catching. "Kunle and Tunde?" Both twins nodded, polite, curious, uncertain why their names mattered to the man in the suit. James leaned back, covering his face with one hand. The room felt smaller suddenly, heavier. It can't be," he muttered. "Anna, you?" Anna stepped forward, calm and firm. "Yes, they are mine, and your sons too. You need to hear this, James. You need to understand what happened and why I had to make choices you never could have imagined." James looked up, fear and guilt warring on his face. I didn't. I thought I erased it," Anna said quietly. "You tried to, but erasing doesn't undo consequences." The twins watched silently. They did not yet understand the depth of the words exchanged, but there was tension in the air, a charge that pulled at them instinctively. James swallowed again. I need to know how." Anna let him stew for a moment. She had rehearsed this confrontation, but she knew there were no rehearsals for moments like this. "You weren't concerned about me," she said, voice steady. "You were concerned about erasing it, about pretending it didn't happen. I gave birth. I had to give them away to my relatives. Family honor, scandal, preservation, all of it. I did what I had to do to protect them, and to protect myself." James' hands shook. He had tried to imagine this moment, but reality was harsher than any scenario he could have invented. He could see the boys now in a different light, not just as strangers applying for a job, but as the living, breathing result of decisions he had made. Silence stretched. Long, painful, impossible silence. Then Anna spoke again. "They are here now. You cannot undo it. You can only face it. What kind of father you will be from this moment forward." James finally looked at the twins directly. Fear, guilt, and something unspoken, remorse, flickered in his eyes. I don't know if I can." Kunle and Tunde, sensing the tension, exchanged a glance. Something inside them stirred, a connection they had never fully understood until now. They had grown up thinking they were alone in the world, yet here was a man who bore part of their history, part of their story. Anna placed a hand on James' shoulder, firm but calm. "You can start by being honest. With them. With yourself." James exhaled slowly, trying to steady his racing mind. This was no longer about control, no longer about power. This was about redemption, acknowledgement, and the life he had tried to ignore for years. For the first time, he felt truly small, and for the first time, he realized that the reckoning he had feared all his life had finally arrived. Outside, the office hum continued, oblivious. Inside, 3 lives intersected in ways that would leave none of them unchanged. And for James, Anna, Kunle, and Tunde, there was no going back, only the uncertain, fragile, and painfully human road ahead. The reunion did not fix everything. Yes, Kunle and Tunde had hugged Anna. Yes, tears were shed, and years of absence collapsed into one fragile moment. But once the emotion settled, reality crept back in, quiet, persistent, unavoidable. They stayed in touch with Anna. They called her. Sometimes they met for lunch. Sometimes they didn't. Some days they asked questions that spilled out all at once. Other days, they said nothing at all. Love had been rediscovered. Trust had not yet been built. Anna understood this better than anyone. She did not rush them. She did not insist on being called mother. She allowed them to move at their own pace, knowing that reunion without patience could become another form of loss. James, meanwhile, existed at the edge of everything. He provided opportunities for the twins, but never without transparency. No secret favors, no unspoken leverage. When Kunle questioned his motives, James answered honestly. When Tunde pulled away, James let him. Redemption, James learned, was not a speech. It was repetition, consistency, time. There were weeks when the twins kept their distance from him entirely. During those periods, Anna became their anchor, not as a replacement for the years lost, but as proof that abandonment had never been her choice. Slowly, truths emerged. The twins spoke of growing up with questions, why their mother never visited, why their origin story felt incomplete. Anna listened without defending herself. She absorbed their anger without correcting it. That, more than words, began to heal something. Months later, a quiet shift happened. Kunle asked James about his childhood. Tunde asked Anna to attend an important event in his life. No announcements, no declarations, just small permissions. The family did not become whole overnight. It became honest, and honesty changed everything. James eventually acknowledged his role publicly, not the details, but the responsibility. He supported Anna openly, not as charity, but as recognition. Anna reclaimed her identity beyond survival. Education, independence, dignity restored. The twins chose how to define their relationships. Some days, James felt close. Some days, distant. Anna remained constant, not perfect, but present. In the end, the story did not become one of neat redemption or instant forgiveness. It became something better. A story where truth arrived late, but not too late. Love returned carefully, not dramatically. And family was rebuilt, not by erasing the past, but by finally facing it. Because some families are not born whole. They are forged, slowly, painfully, and honestly, after the truth refuses to stay buried. The truth was revealed. But the past isn't done yet. Just when Anna thought the hardest part was over, a new secret surfaces, one that threatens to undo everything she fought to rebuild. James believes he has paid his debt. The twins think they finally know their story. They're wrong, because some betrayals don't come from enemies. They come from family, from silence, from the people who helped bury the truth the first time. In the next story, loyalty will be tested, reputations will crack, and one decision will force them to choose between protecting the family or exposing everything. Like this story if you felt the tension. Subscribe for more powerful emotional stories filled with suspense, secrets, and consequences. Because the truth doesn't always end a story. Sometimes it's just the beginning.